Is 7:01 on Monday, October 3rd, 2022. So I will call to order the meeting of the Norton Finance Committee and do a roll call for attendance. Kevin.
Here.
Paula.
Here.
Sorry I was late, Paula. Steve.
It's not there.
Coming in.
I am thumb not in Barnesville. Really? Yeah.
Come back to
That's shocking. We have
Sandy.
prestidigitation in my area.
Here.
Joe.
My goal was here.
Bill.
Here.
Amy.
Here.
Cody. I don't see Cody. Zach. I see Zach, but I don't see Zach.
Oh, he's on mute.
Here's Zach.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
I am here. Sorry about that.
that's right. And Steve.
Here.
Okay, so still no Cody. Alrighty. I think we're ready to go then. Mike?
Okay, you have two articles to take up tonight. The first article is a petitioned article on solar, and I'll just share the current zoning. So I'll just go over what the petitioner is looking to do, and then the petitioner can speak further. So under the first section, 175-22-2, under section E, right now, large-scale ground-mounted solar is allowed in residential 80 and residential 60 with 5-acre minimum. And so the petitioner is looking to add that here for R40. And then also in this section, setback and screening requirements, once again, in district with no less than 5 acres within the residential 60 and residential 40 zoning districts. The petitioner is looking to add R40 zoning district to that to allow for solar in R40. And then also looking under B to amend the front, side, and rear setbacks. So under front yard, he's looking to add a letter E and residential 40 zoning district and with 75 feet front setback. And then side and rear also adding E to both of them and adding 40, residential 40 with 50 feet both side and rear. And just to give you an idea of where R40 is, the brownish color on this map. Can you see the zoning map?
No, we can't.
Okay. Let me do you see it now?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The darker brown area is the R40 residential 40. So this is where it would be allowed if the petition went forward. And is Mr. Fogarty on?
I didn't see him.
So this did go to the planning board for a recommendation, and the planning board does not recommend the zoning change.
Yes, the vote, I understand, was 1 in favor to recommend and 6 against.
Correct.
Thank you, Cody. Just Cody arrived at 7:06.
So basically, that's what the petitioner is looking to do.
Does anyone have any questions for the petitioner that's not here?
I have a question for Mike.
That'll go. That'll work.
Mike, can you just give us in brief the different residential zoning? What's the difference between 40, 60, 80, whatever it may be?
It's the square footage requirement. So R40 minimum lot size is 40,000 square feet. R60 it's 60,000 square feet, and R80 it's 80,000 square feet.
And it's currently allowed in R60?
And R80.
Okay, and not
With a
allowed in
special
R40. Okay.
No,
But they
And
both
it's
require a
5
special permit.
5 acre minimum.
Mike, do they both require a special permit, and this would just make it so that R40 then also
Correct.
went through
You'd
the
have to-
same process?
Yep, they'd have to go through the same process with a site plan review. And I know in talking to the petitioner, his idea is he bought land or is looking to buy land. I don't know. I think he may have purchased it across the street from his house. And he said that he talked to the neighbors who signed on to his petition, and they'd rather have solar there than a subdivision.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Cody?
Sorry, I was late. You may have touched on this. What was the reasoning behind you said it was 4-1 against from the planning board?
It was 1 to 6.
1 to 6, okay.
I think one of their concerns was the noise generated by the facility in a residential zone.
The noise from a solar farm?
I think that was one of them. I'm looking to see.
Sorry,
This
don't mean-
says summary
ahead.
of issues heard at public meeting September 27th. Regarding the solar article, the concerns were noise that comes from the solar panels. Most of developable R40 zoned areas are smaller lots. Most of Norton allows solar or to have to apply for a special permit. R40 is designed for residential development, density of R40 zone, and the difficulty of being able to deny a solar facility in R40 if it was approved at town meeting.
Is there a rationale for holding residents of an R40 zone to a different standard? Because it all has to go through special approval process through zoning, correct? Regardless of
Yes,
what
for
residents-
60 and 80, yes.
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Joe.
So I did have a discussion with a member of the planning board about this, so I think I might be able to add some insight on this. So for the noise on the solar panels, especially for a large scale, whatever the converter is that actually takes the solar array and converts it to usable energy has a hum that goes along with it, and that can be somewhat loud, especially if there are a large number of those. So that was part of their concern. Secondarily, R40, the understanding was that R40 was put in place so that when you're zoning the town, that's the area that's going to be the most densely populated because it's going to be, the smallest lots. So the thought was there that, if that's the area that you want your most population to be, you've got the other areas that are more spread out in order to be able to have the have the solar arrays there. And I think the last piece of that was not wanting to, because of those things, not wanting to necessarily have these in the R40 area, because again, like you said, if you do it for one petitioner, I guess, it's going to change the zoning bylaw for everyone. And once it's available for R40, there's really no good way to say no, because everything would be in compliance. Chances are, and the planning board is limited to what they can actually do once the zoning is set in place to allow these, to actually deny it if they didn't feel it was a good fit for an R40. So that was my understanding.
Thanks, Joe.
Mike? Oh, Bonnie.
Sure, go ahead, Steve.
Mike, I'm just curious, is that the rationale why R40 was excluded from the special permitting originally?
I can't say for sure. I don't remember, Steve.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Paula, go ahead.
Mike, do you recall the one person who voted to recommend this? Do you know the reasoning for that? Why they were recommending it?
I do not.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Joe.
One thing I did forget to mention was my understanding is that there are recommendations from the state about where to allow the solar, and their recommendation is not to allow it in every type of zoning. And so that was part of the planning board's, or many of the members of the planning board's reasoning as well, was that zoning was put in place specifically excluding R40, perhaps, or most likely, I guess, based on that recommendation from the state. So that was the part of their discussion as well.
And Bonnie, do we invite the planning board to this meeting?
Not that I'm aware of. We did expect the petitioner at least, as of this afternoon at least, but Mike, you haven't heard anything from them?
I haven't. He did say we did notify him, and he was in there and told us he'd be on.
Madam Chair?
I don't know who just said that, Joe.
That was me again. This time I have a question for Mike.
Sure, go ahead.
Mike, for the other solar farms that we have throughout the town, what is the actual financial benefit that we gain, even if it's a rough number of hundreds of thousands, or it would be great if it was millions. I don't think it's that much. Do you know that?
So the only one that we gain a lot of money from is the one that we put on the Hill Street landfill, because they rent the lot from us for $80,000 a year, plus we get energy credits from that facility. So it's probably about $300,000 a year to us. So any private solar farms, the only benefit is if they negotiate a pilot with us. But recently, the state came out, so they don't have to do that. We actually have one that has not, so there isn't a great deal of benefit.
Okay, that's kind of what I was getting at, was, is there a benefit to going through the whole process of changing this for what is potentially just pennies?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Kevin, go ahead.
I'd also say, just it was a couple years ago now, but the proposed projects, the zoning aside, but just the idea of solar, the Bay Road project and the LG North project were very, very hotly debated in town as well. So I don't think this is something we should take lightly.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Cody, go ahead.
A couple of things that I would at least take into consideration. The first being individuals in R40. I don't believe that they should be treated any different than individuals in R60 and R80. The solar has to go through a special permit, and all those discussions going through planning board and zoning and all that would be under the advisement of those individuals anyways. So that's the first thing. The second thing, if we're talking purely about financial impact to the town, the Inflation Reduction Act that was just passed has quite a lot of incentives, particularly on smaller solar developments, under 5 megawatts in particular, where the tax credits associated with them and the development of them are such that in some cases, I don't think we would qualify here in Norton, but in some cases it could be as much as 70% of the value of the project would be tax deductible. And they're also incentivizing nonprofit or not-for-profit entities to be able to accept direct pay. So if we were ever looking at potential sites where we could, if it's town-owned land and happens to be an R40, and we could put up like a 2 or 3 megawatt system, there could be financial benefit to doing so. You're talking about fairly small in footprint systems for 2 or 3 megawatts, but it could impact the town financially. Just food for thought.
Would not require the town to pay for those. I mean, this is a private citizen, right? Taking this.
Well, if it's town-owned land in R40, I mean, it still has to go through special permitting, but the way that those projects are developed, typically you have a developer that will work with whatever entity that, in this case would be Town of Norton or whoever, the same way that the school projects were done. You have a developer that comes in, they build out the system, they have it built, they put together the power purchase agreements, interconnections, all the various aspects of building those systems out, and getting the financing and tax equity in this case, to the extent Norton could benefit from that. The developer would be an independent developer, would be looking to work with the town, and the town looking to maximize or capitalize on the financial benefits of putting a solar plant on town property somewhere. But there's kind of two sides of this. There's the town side, and then there's the individual side. As an individual, I wouldn't like to be held to a different standard because I live in R40 compared to R60 or R80. Just because of where you live, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have the same rights, because again, it's still going to special permit. It still has to go through that whole through that process with the planning board and zoning board and public hearings and yada yada. It has to go through all of that. And from a starting point on R40 to say, oh, too bad you live in R40, you should have lived in R60 if you wanted to put a solar project up.
Doesn't that open Pandora's box though, and say, well, there's probably dozens of other things that separate the zoning. Why don't we open it all up and say, just make it all radically egalitarian?
I'm just saying, if it's subject to special permit, then I would say yes. But if it's an absolute no across the, that's why the zones are set where they are. But if you're willing to give a special permit in R60 and R80, why not give the option to R40 to have the same right?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Joe.
So my answer to that, Cody, would be that with R60 and R80, the lots are much larger, and the likelihood of the abutters' homes being close or within, a much closer distance from the border is greater. So with R40, you're really talking about much smaller plots, and the sight lines are going to be much more difficult to maintain in order to not have the residents being able to see those things.
And Joe, isn't that part of the discussion for under a special permit anyways? That's what I'm saying. It's not that every project that's submitted in R40, if you grant them the special permit, or you grant them the ability to go for a special permit, it doesn't mean every single one gets approved. Every single one that goes in R60 and R80 doesn't get approved. They have the right to at least submit for it.
My understanding is that it's very difficult to not approve that special permit, and quite often, even if the planning board does reject them, often the permit seeker has recourse with the state, and that can be overturned. So that would be of great concern to me.
What Mike, do you know how many lots in existence could even support, like, a lot of the R40 is, I mean, we're not talking about a lot of property here, because most of that, like you said, it's already developed. You already got a lot of the property is spoken for. What are we talking about here as far as, you know, the likelihood or realistic expectation that these projects could even go forward?
I couldn't tell you that. The larger lots would all be on the western side of the town, because a lot of the R40 is down the Grove, but a lot of them would be the western side of the town. I'm not sure how many lots there are over 5 acres.
My understanding, though, is that this is on Oak Street, so it is on the western side of the town, just
Yeah.
for accuracy purposes. It seems as though what the recommendation from the state is not to allow it in R40 because the concerns that are discussed during the special permit for R60 and R80, the considerations that are made and why the special permit is, or what's under consideration when a special permit is wanted, is almost always those concerns are met when you're talking about R40, was my understanding. So R40 almost always has the impact of hum to neighbors because of how close together the homes are, and also the sight lines, as you mentioned. So those things are sort of assumed to be concerns.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Sandy?
I don't know that the state actually says you shouldn't have it in R40. It just says you can make exceptions in certain zones. But I would say again, yes, it's more dense, but we're also talking about a 5-acre parcel. I think if you know people are concerned, I wouldn't mind seeing the setbacks further. So it had to be a little further away from their neighbors. That would be an easy fix to make sure it wasn't, you know, any closer to neighbors than, I mean, right now it's set the same way, I think, as the other zones, but you certainly could, you know, make an amendment to make those setbacks a little bit more. But again, it's a 5-acre parcel, so I feel like that's, you know, plenty of room to give a buffer to the neighbors.
And Sandy, but just to tack onto that before we lose the train of thought, so that if that would all be, again, part of the special permit consideration whenever, if the zoning board or the planning board or whoever's reviewing the proposal, if they're going to approve it under special permit, they can revise whatever setbacks based upon the proposal that's presented to them. So if it's a 5-acre lot, you can say, okay, for that lot, it has to have, you know, 50-foot setbacks from every border.
I think that would have to be in the bylaw itself in order for them to really enforce it. I think they could ask them, right? They could say, could you put it, they certainly can make the request, but I think, you know, again, if people are concerned, I imagine the petitioner wouldn't mind increasing the setbacks to be able to still be able to put that property, you know, he can certainly make an amendment on the town meeting floor if that's a big concern for people.
Thank you.
Sure. Any further questions or discussion without a petitioner? As soon as we close discussion and vote, he's going to show up. Right? Isn't that FinCom law or something? Amy, do you have a question or a comment?
No, I was just shrugging my shoulders.
When you went like this, I thought it was.
Yeah, sorry. Life happens with people who show up.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I'm not trying to delay. No, so I'm just making sure there isn't any more discussion to be had.
Madam Chair,
Was that Kevin?
I would just go back to the point Mike said earlier, which is from a finance board perspective, the impact of this on the finances of the town is marginal to none.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, debating whether it's R40 or R60 or the setbacks, ultimately, I think would defer back to the planning board.
Okay. Was there any other comment? I thought I heard somebody else.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Joe.
I make a motion that we recommend the sorry, what article number is it, Mike? 13?
13.
13.
I recommend Article 13 as written.
Second.
Okay, hearing a motion and a second, we will take a roll call vote on Article 13 as written in the warrant, petitioned article for solar in R40. Kevin,
No.
Paula,
No.
Steve,
No.
Sandy,
Yes.
Joe,
No.
Bill,
No.
Amy.
No.
Cody,
Yes.
Zach,
No.
and I am a no. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, and 2 yes, and 0 abstentions. Right, Article 11, the bylaw, personnel bylaw.
Okay. Am I sharing the screen?
Yep.
Okay. So since we last met, made corrections on the chart, and the corrections were made under highway superintendent, the water and sewer superintendent, and the other one was the public health nurse, and also the town clerk.
And what adjustments were made?
So, last time, under the water and source superintendent, for some reason, the high end on the proposed was actually lower than the high end now. And so what I did was I brought that up, the same increase that everyone else had, and the highway superintendent, same thing. So that all the increases are based on the same percentage increase over the next 3 years from the current high end to the new high end. And as I said before, not saying anyone's getting to that high end, but as was brought up at your meeting, at least it leaves us room in this economy if we have to fill a position. And we're struggling to do that because of salary. It at least leaves us some leeway there.
All right, questions or discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Zach, go ahead.
Mike, on the water and sewer department and all positions affiliated with that.
Yeah.
I know there's a water sewer commission. Do they work for you? Are you the one that negotiates these salaries? Does the water and sewer commission negotiate these salaries? How does that work?
Yeah. I always joke with them about that, because when the charter was changed, the last time, one of the proposals was to do away with the water and sewer commissioners. They didn't do that, but they gave me all the hiring authority for all the employees in the water and sewer department. So I always say that, they're stuck working for me, but also answering to the commissioners. But I do all the hiring and firing of water and sewer employees, and set the salaries and do the negotiations.
So what's left for the water and sewer commission?
So the water and sewer commission is more of a policy setting commission. So they set the water and sewer rates, and they're responsible for any projects that the water and sewer department undertakes. They do all the planning and recommendations on projects.
So the budget for the water and sewer commission in general, other than you handling salaries and personnel, the budget is the water and sewer commission?
No, I do the budget for water and sewer too. The water and sewer commissioners are more of a policy setting for what projects that they'll take on as far as water projects or sewer projects and how they're funded. And
So you can jack up the salaries if the water bill goes up and you blame it on them? Is that what happens?
I always say when I get complaints about water and sewer, dial 282.
Any other comments, discussion, or questions? Seeing none, seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion first
Madam Chair,
to recommend Article 11,
Sorry.
Personnel Bylaws Amendment. That's all right.
I move that we vote to recommend Article 11, personnel bylaws.
Second.
Thanks, Bill. That's a motion and a second, so we will vote. Kevin,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Sandy,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Cody,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
and I too am yes. So that is 10.
Can I just ask a question? On the previous vote, it was a positive motion, correct?
We
So-
voted in the affirmative with
In
2 yeses, 8,
Yep. Okay.
8 to 0 abstentions. All right, whoever took this extra 3 minutes, I was trying to keep
Hang on
up.
one second, Amy. Not Amy, I mean Bonnie. The previous vote, you're talking about the petition article?
Yes.
Yeah.
We
The
did not
mo-
vote in the affirmative. We voted
Right.
to,
No, but I worded the motion in the
The
affirmative.
motion is worded in
To
the
approve it.
affirmative, so
We
the
did not
motion is
approve.
worded, the motion is worded in the affirmative in the sense that you say, I make a motion that we recommend Article 13, and then everyone who is against recommending it votes no. And so it is not recommended, but the motion is made in the affirmative.
all right, as long as,
Yeah, it's confusing. That's why whenever we have a vote like that at town meeting, you'll hear the moderator say, just so you know, if you vote yes, this is what you're voting. And if you vote no, should you want to not see this happen, that is what you should do. So those are the 2 articles we have on tonight's agenda. I hear a rumor. Mike started.
Let me.
We want to,
Yeah. So we don't know yet. We should know tomorrow. We're receiving money as part of the settlement of the opioid settlement. And as you know, we have the group NOPE that works for prevention and training and education and counseling to help prevent addictions and to help people out that are addicted. And we had planned on using the money we received from the settlement to help them out with inspirational speakers, purchase of Narcan, and counseling services. And the town accountants just recently found out from the DOR that they're not allowing us to use the money without appropriation. We were looking at it as a grant, but they're saying it's general fund revenue and it will have to be appropriated at town meeting. And NOPE is really looking to get some of that money this year. So we have town council looking at the options, and one of them may be to have an article on the October town meeting to appropriate the funds that we're going to receive this year to be used for the purposes that NOPE wants to use them. but we won't know until tomorrow, and the select board, if that happens, we'll take it up Wednesday night.
So that leaves us in a little bit of a pickle because we don't have another meeting scheduled. Obviously, next Monday is
Indigenous.
a holiday, and so we don't have a meeting scheduled for that night, obviously. The thought was that we could, the warrant needs to be printed when, Mike? How many business days?
14 days before.
Right. So even if the meeting is 2 weeks from tonight,
Today.
so it will not be in the warrant. There is the possibility that we could meet before the meeting. I know, and for those who are new to this board, there is history on this, that the FinCom in general in the past has not been a fan of holding meetings right before town meeting to make any recommendations that are not printed in a warrant. We think we've in the past felt it was bad form and bad policy to not have things all lined up. In this case, just given the nature of the article and what the money is for, I think it's, and because the timing really is out of the control of everyone in this town currently, it's worth at least considering. So I was going to propose that we plan to have a meeting at 6 or 6:15 on the night, usually it's 6 on the night of town meeting, prior to the meeting starting at 7 at the high school. There's a chance we would cancel it if Mike were to tell us that there was no reason to have that meeting, and as of now, there isn't a reason besides this. So, does that sound?
Bonnie, I know, like,
Yeah, Mr.
I
Dunn.
think it's meeting time right now, so
Sorry, say that again, Steve?
I won't be able to make that meeting time, unfortunately.
Okay. That's helpful to know too.
And I'm just looking it up because, as you said, it's 7 days
Oh,
to post the warrant.
well, we still wouldn't be able to meet
Yeah,
next Monday. Typically we go till Wednesday, and that wouldn't be enough time. So
Yep.
There's really not a reason to schedule a special meeting. It's possible also that this could become a special if NOPE decides that they want to move forward and it really feels important to appropriate that funding to help with town meeting.
all right.
Any other business to come before the board?
Nope.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone, including Dave and Jack, for being so patient. I don't know if they can hear me, but I know that they're with Joe Parker. Anyway, they're eager for him to not be in this meeting anymore, apparently, because they are texting me to end it. Seeing that there's no more business to come before the board, as much as I would love to delay this on their behalf, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:40 p.m.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Paula.
I make a motion to adjourn for Joe Parker.
Second.
Second.
Seeing the lateness of the hour. Okay, we will take a roll call vote. Kevin,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Sandy,
Yes.
Joe.
If I knew it was going to be that easy to move meetings along, I'd have done that a long time ago, but yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Cody,
Yes.
Zach.
Yes.
And as much as I want to be a jerk and say no, I will say it. So yes, it wouldn't have mattered. But anyway, so we do not have a scheduled meeting until possibly the night of town meeting at 6. So check your email between now and then, your town email, just to make sure there isn't information that you need to know. Great.
Not everyone.
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Good night.
Have fun, boys.
Good night.